Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Jan Michael here, coming at you with another Oscar predictions video, which I wish was under better circumstances. As many of you know, the writers and the actors have started striking. Writers for some time now, actors just recently. And if you are into movies or the Oscars or these type of videos, I highly recommend you go out there and you do some research on exactly why the strike is happening. And to avoid the misconceptions that I feel may be surfacing because of it. I think a lot of people right now are like, oh, the actors are striking, those rich motherfuckers, why? They need more money? And again, we need to avoid those misconceptions, because when we're talking about these actor strike, we're not talking about the bigwigs, the George Clooney's, the Brad Pitts, those type of people. We're talking about the smaller actors, the ones that only play roles in the backgrounds. They go in, they say a couple lines, or even if any lines, they get paid for a day or two's work, and then they're on to the next project, if they can even get that. Those are the people that are really going to be affected by what these companies are trying to do. It's some scary stuff. There's digital AI nonsense, there's owning people's likeness, and the reaction that I've been hearing from the companies due to the strike is some scary stuff as well. I've been hearing rumors saying that the companies are actually going to not do anything. They're going to wait until these people are no longer able to afford rent or be able to afford food even, so that way they have to come back. And the alternative isn't any better. What's the alternative? Coming back for one day's work, getting your likeness copywritten, and then never needing you again. So it's either starve now or starve later. It is some very fucking corporate bullshit, and it's just evil. If that is truly what they're planning, it is fucking evil. So again, if you haven't done any research, please go out there and do so. If you want to support them, I highly recommend you do so. And in terms of Oscars, in terms of award show, don't be surprised if this strike takes such a long time that those festivals could get pushed back. The last time a strike like this happened, I believe it lasted for a few months. So if we're looking at something similar, especially if that's the way the corporations really want to run it, this could be taking some time to get resolved. And as such, we might not see the Oscars at March. We might get pushed back later. Golden Globes, unless they decide to do what the Golden Globes did a couple of years back, where they just kind of walked on stage, read the winners, and then that was it. I don't think they would want to do that with the Oscars though, so just things to keep in mind. For now, I will continue doing my predictions and just kind of going about it as if the Oscars are still happening in March. So please keep that in mind while watching these next videos. Now, as for the predictions themselves, if you saw last month's video, then you know this month is also not a full-on predictions video. Last month, I focused on the pictures and the directors that could get nominated. This month, I'm going to be taking a look at the acting performances that could get nominated. I'm also only going to go over 25 of them, and I'm not going to differentiate between lead and supporting. So yes, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to be on the list. But again, this is just a kind of list that I like to go over because I want to talk about the things that I would love to see nominated and things that I think have a real potential to get nominated. So please keep that in mind as we go through these in alphabetical order. Let's go ahead and begin. Starting things off, I have Anne Hathaway playing Celine in Mother's Instinct. Not a lot of people have faith in these performances. I think in Gold Derby, they're like at the very, very bottom right now, so I can kind of see why. I mean, the movie is a psychological thriller. I don't think those usually make a big splash at the Oscars. It's also based off of a French film of the same name, which is then loosely based off a book, so I don't know. I think people might be on the right track of it might not be a huge Oscar contender, but just the plot, the synopsis, it sounds so interesting, and I think this is a movie that you have to give good performances to really get sucked into, especially if it's a psychological thriller. So I'm really looking forward to it. I needed to mention this performance and one more, which I'll talk about a little bit later on, just because I think they could be great, especially the actors here. They're great. I think Anne Hathaway is a very talented actress. So that's kind of just my little take on this film. But yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if it didn't make a splash at the Oscars. Next up is Bradley Cooper as Leonardo Bernstein in Maestro. Yeah, gotta include Bradley here. Now, the early buzz behind the film is that it's not that great of a movie. I haven't heard that it's terrible, just it hasn't had the most positive first reaction, so a lot of people are kind of worried. That being said, I think Bradley Cooper is on a lot of people's top 5, if not top 10, and the reason for that is the makeup. A lot of people think this film is definitely going to be nominated for the makeup, and so because the last couple of years, best makeup has also been tied to the best performance, Bradley comes along with it. Which is kind of weird when you really think about it. How do those two things correlate, makeup, performance? Just because you have amazing makeup doesn't mean you have an amazing performance, but whatever. I have to include him because first, it is Bradley. I do think he's a very talented actor and a talented director as well. And second, I don't always go off of those early buzz. I mean, remember last year when we had Babylon and everyone was saying it's a fucking masterpiece, it's amazing, and then the movie comes out and it's like super polarizing. So I hear it, sure, I'll take it into consideration, but I can't take it to heart. So yeah, Bradley Cooper, worth watching out for. Following that one, I have Charles Melton as Joe Yu for May December. I believe that the major consensus right now is that this isn't really so much a best picture contender as it is a performance contender. I hear the performances in the movie are amazing, and I hear more than any that Charles stands out amongst the crowd, actually even surpasses his stars, his fellow co-stars in the film, and I'm very excited to see it because of that. Spoiler, I don't have the other two actresses in my list, but we know they're talented actresses, and I'm not saying that I don't think that they're not going to get nominated. I'm saying that I'm more interested in seeing Charles's performances just because of what people are saying. So take that into consideration. Very much looking forward to seeing the movie when it releases. Of course, I got to include Cillian Murphy as J. Robert Oppenheimer in Oppenheimer. As of the time of this recording, the movie is just days away from releasing, so I'm sure by the time the video releases, it's out, and you'll know if this was a mistake or if it cemented his spot. As of right now, though, I am very excited to see his performance. I think Cillian is a talented actor and deserves some recognition, so I would love to see him knock it out of the park and get into the Oscars. And he is on a lot of people's top 5. Some people even put him at number 1, so as of right now, he's looking pretty good. Coleman Domingo as Bayard Rustin in Rustin had huge momentum last year when we thought the film was going to release. But now that it's been pushed back to this year, and again, the early buzzword behind it is that it's not as strong a film as people wanted it to be, he's definitely fallen. Not by a considerable amount. I do see people still kind of putting them in their top 10 when they do the 10, but he's definitely not near the top anymore. I can't say this is the performance I'm most looking forward to seeing, but I do think there's still potential for him to get a lot of awards, the Critics Awards nominations, and maybe even be in the talks. So even if the film doesn't end up knocking it out of the park, the performance still could. So I think it's still somebody to keep an eye on and be hopeful that the performance really outshines everything else. I got a lot of performances from The Color Purple on my list, and first is Daniel Brooks as Sophia. I think the biggest thing to just keep note of with these performances is that they've all been nominated in the past, whether for Oscars or whether for Tonys. So I think there's a very good shot that they could also come along with this next year's Oscars. I don't know who has the best shot. Actually, yes, I do, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I do think it's worthy to just kind of keep everybody on the list for now. Even if I know a lot of people said that the trailer hasn't really impressed them that much, so maybe some slight hesitation there. But again, just because the movie's not fantastic doesn't mean the performances are weak, so gotta keep them on there for now and see exactly what comes about it. Next, we need justice for Danielle Deadwyler for The Piano Lesson. And funny enough, just talking about Danielle Brooks, Danielle Brooks actually played the character that Danielle Deadwyler played for The Piano Lesson in the play version of it, and was even nominated. So Danielle Deadwyler, both of them are named Danielle, is now playing this character, which is very interesting. So maybe Danielle Deadwyler has a really good shot of getting nominated. And if she does and Danielle Brooks doesn't, I don't know why this decision was made, but if she had anything to do with it, I feel she might have shot herself in the foot. Again, that's if she had any choice on the matter, but just very interesting information I wanted to share. But yeah, justice for Danielle Deadwyler. Come on, guys. Next up is Divine Joy Randolph as Joy for The Holdovers. And my God, is this film getting a big push. I've seen like the Oscar experts video and a couple of others that have said that talking to the people behind the scenes, they've been told, no, you gotta watch out for The Holdovers. That movie's gonna just blow everybody away. Sounds like some sort of PR stunt. I'm very hesitant to believe anything that other people say, but I am very curious to see the movie. And I know a lot of people really want justice for Paul. I mean, he should have had an Oscar by now. I mean, he definitely got robbed for Sideways, not even getting the nomination. So I think more so than anything, they just really want him to be nominated. But I think along with the movie and him comes Divine. A lot of people really want her to get a nomination as well. I'm gonna hold off until I see the movie. Again, I'm very cautious walking into films, especially when there's this kind of behind the scenes buzz. I mean, can you really believe it? So, I don't know. I'm trying not to be too negative. So, she's on my list. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just cautiously looking forward to it. That's all I got. Now we gotta talk about Fantasia Barrino for The Color Purple, because as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, there is one performance that has gone on to win an award. And that is this character, the one that Fantasia is playing. It's won a Tony, if I'm remembering correctly. But long story short, everybody's been nominated. This performance is the only one that's gone on to win. So that's why you see Fantasia #1 out of any other cast for The Color Purple. Heck, just in terms of the actress nominations, people are just placing her at the #1 spot just because they're so confident in it getting a nomination. And sure, I think that is a very good evidence of why you should place her higher than all the others. Again, a lot of people weren't so sold on the trailer, so I can't tell you if this is going to go all the way to win, but I am looking forward to it, and this is the performance that I and many others are keeping the closest eye on. Alright, next up is Greta Lee as Nora for Past Lives, which I finally got a shot to see. Everyone was hyping the shit out of this movie, and what did I think? It was good. It was really good. I can't say I loved it like so many other people did. Like, I was waiting to tear up at the end. Everyone was like, oh, I was crying in the end, and I was just getting to it. I'm like, Oh, that's the tearjerker? I feel nothing. I'm dead inside. I don't know. I do think there were moments that the movie could have gone even further and maybe really did work up the tear works, but I think it fell short in a couple of different areas. That's not to say I think it's a bad film. I do think it is excellently directed. It's excellently written. The performances in it are really, really good. I just wanted it to go a little bit further, but I'm definitely in the minority there. And I also do think that Greta Lee has the best shot of getting nominated. We'll talk about one other performance in the movie a little bit later, but I do think Greta Lee should be your very top out of that cast. And now looking at the other performance for Mother's Instinct is Jessica Chastain, who plays Alice. Really not much more to add from what I said beforehand. Again, Gold Derby has these performances pretty low on the list, but I do think these are two very talented actresses, so I could see maybe some sort of awards recognition. I don't know. You can tell I'm really trying to just push the film. Again, the plot sounds so interesting to me, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I wanted to mention the performances. Okay, I really wanted to talk about Joaquin Phoenix, who's playing Napoleon Bonaparte in the movie Napoleon, because I just saw the trailer for it, and it's super underwhelming, if I'm being completely honest. I have so many emotions for it. So first and foremost, if you saw my last video, you know that I was looking forward to the movie, even though I do not like Ridley Scott very much. I know he's going to kind of fuck everything up with this historical figure, who I really, really like. I think that Napoleon's history is so goddamn fascinating. It could definitely be a worthwhile, epic tale to tell. It could get Oscar nominations, and I'm just not sold off the trailer. But more weirdly so than that is I'm not sold on Joaquin's performance from what I saw in the trailer. And that's weird because I do think Joaquin is a very talented actor, but was it just me? You guys gotta tell me. Was it just me, or was the accent inconsistent? Like, there's times where I'm like, oh yeah, I hear the accent, and then there's times where I'm like, what the fuck? Did they got rid of the accent? I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that the clips were all strung together. That's the impression that it kind of gave off, but I don't know. I'm super fucking worried, and it's such a shame. Just because, again, I think Napoleon's such a fascinating person. They're gonna butcher that story. What a shame. What a shame. Next up is John Magaro as Arthur for Past Lives. This is the other performance I do think could get nominated, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't have high hopes for it. I'm not saying John did a bad job. I do think he's excellent, but there are moments in that movie that I think his character's underwhelming. Like the first meeting between him and Nora, I think was, I don't know, not that impactful. I kind of wanted more, especially how well the other two characters really got along. That chemistry was so fucking great. So I wanted like an even better chemistry between these two, or I don't know, something more. And so I don't know, it just came off as underwhelming to me. And while he has some good scenes, I think he's going to be forgotten about, if I'm being honest. I do think he's going to get critics nominations throughout the season, but I think at the end of the day, I think there's just going to be more performances that are going to outshine him. Maybe not, maybe I'm in the wrong, but it's just what I'm feeling as of right now. Funny enough, nobody's really talking about Kate Winslet for Lee anymore, and maybe that's because everybody keeps forgetting Lee exists. Honestly, I was, researching, I was like, oh, that's right, Kate Winslet, Lee, of course. So I'm wondering if everybody's having that kind of same, like, oh, that's right, that movie is coming out type of deal. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Kate Winslet's fantastic actress, so even, again, I'm not to repeat myself, but even if the movie isn't that amazing, that doesn't mean the performance is going to suck. And she's been nominated so many times before that I could easily see her getting another nomination for a performance like this, especially where she's front and center. So I'm not counting her out completely, but I do think it's kind of odd that I've seen so many people kind of forget about her and the movie. So maybe something to watch out for. Another trailer I just recently saw was the one for Bob Marley One Love, which is a stupid fucking title, but we're here to talk about Kingsley Benadir, who plays the titular Bob Marley. He's great. I honestly think he could pull it off, but my god, does that trailer look very generic. And another thing to keep in mind is right now it has a January 2024 release date and no talks about it having like an Oscar contending run the year prior, this year. So I'm of a couple of different minds. First and foremost, January, that's not good. Though I also think we need to get away from the stigma of all bad movies going into January. Just get rid of it. Put some good movies out in January. But second, maybe it's not trying to be an Oscar contender. I mean, that's not what the focus is. They just want it to be an entertaining movie. Comes out January because they know not a lot of other movies, big movies I should say, are in January. So I think that's fine. I don't think every movie has to be an Oscar contender or have to be made to be an Oscar contender, especially biopics. Maybe they just wanted to tell the story because they really do think it's an interesting story. So I don't know, I'm of a couple of different minds. I still have it in for now just in case they change their mind, but just keep that. It's kind of teeter-tottery, maybe falling off the list if that's the route they want to go with. All right, let's talk about some heavy hitters now. We've got Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon. What the hell can I say other than this is my most anticipated movie right now, and it actually has the reviews to back it up. So super duper excited. I hear Leonardo gives one of his best performances, which is great. Like if he goes all the way to win, he'd have like an actual worthy Oscar win, not, you know, for The Revenant, which kind of felt like, oh, here, Leo, good job. So that's just my personal take on it. So yeah, a more worthy win for Leo would definitely be welcome. And following right after him, Lily Gladstone, also Killers of the Flower Moon, who I hear is fucking excellent. I could see this movie, everything's lining up perfectly for the movie. It released, getting amazing reviews, a lot of people saying that this is his best movie or a masterpiece, which I'm always kind of weary on, but needless to say. Then it goes on to be released in October, gets this other huge surge of life, everybody's fucking loving it, and talking about the performances, and then all the performances end up winning Martin gets his directing Oscar again, which would be very much welcome. I don't know. I think everything is just lining up perfectly for Killers of the Flower Moon, and that's what makes me so excited for just the potential of what he could bring. So, as you can tell, I'm very giddy with anticipation to see it. For now, though, just 2 worthy performances to put on this list. Alright, let's talk about Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. As I mentioned before, I think a lot of people just want justice for Paul. I think they want him to have an Oscar already. And yeah, I mean, I would love to see that too. With so many other big performances coming out, you got Cillian, you got Leonardo. I think he's just not in a very good spot. In fact, if I were to make a ranking right now, I could see him being maybe 6 or 7. If I'm being generous, maybe a 5, but then that would mean I'd have to push someone else I really would like to see nominated out of the way. So, I don't know. I don't think he's in a fantastic spot right now. But again, maybe all the buzzword behind the scenes does live up to the hype, and this ends up being a movie that just blows us all completely away. I would like that. I want movies to completely blow me away. So, you know, there's that to keep in mind. Alright, let's go back to Killers of the Flower Moon with Robert De Niro. I know, jumping back and forth. Again, they're in alphabetical order, just to not rank them. And once again, I hear fantastic things about Robert De Niro. Again, how awesome would it be for him to get that one other Oscar? I think he's a very talented actor. He's done so much with his career. So I wouldn't be upset, especially if he does give a very good, chilling performance. So, I mean, not much more to add other than the giddiness that I had from my last 2 talks of those performances. So, is Robert De Niro. Nominate him. So I feel maybe some people have kind of come under the impression that I don't think the Barbie movie is going to be an Oscar contender. And yeah, I really don't think it is. Again, by the time this video comes out, the movie's already out and about, so I'm sure that's either going to bite me in the ass or everyone's going to be like, yeah, you're right, Jan. So there's that. But the one thing I heard that it has me most intrigued is Ryan Gosling as Ken. Because I hear he's amazing and steals the show and is very much worthy of an Oscar nomination. I find that intriguing. I think the most Barbie could have really gotten was things like, you know, like production design or maybe like makeup and hairstyling. I don't really see it being a best picture, director, performance piece. But so many people have talked about Ryan that I gotta talk about him because it does intrigue me. I would really like to see a character like this just really go leaps and bounds and just blow us away. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'll know by now, by the time you're watching this, whether he's going to remain on my list or not. Next up is Samuel L. Jackson for The Piano Lesson. Look, I want fucking Samuel to have an Oscar so badly, like a legit acting Oscar. He's only been nominated once in the past. Ain't that some bullshit? So he definitely deserves another one. And this is a character that he's played in the play version and been nominated for. So maybe we do finally see another nomination for him. And heck, maybe people are just so blown away by the performance that they're like, this is our one shot, we got to give him the Oscar. So I don't know, I wouldn't count against that completely. It's a possibility. But again, there's just so many interesting performances this year that I think maybe he's just not in the best spot. So I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it, but I would like to see Samuel make another Oscar nomination appearance again, if you will. Moving right along, I have Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall. Sandra, I think, is in a very good spot. I've talked about the actors and actresses that maybe aren't in the best position right now. I think Sandra's in a really good position because not only is she appearing in Anatomy of a Fall, where she gives a fucking amazing performance. That thing went on to win the Palm. Very, very good shot. That maybe that one gets in for like the international feature and maybe gets into Best Picture as the international feature. But you also got The Zone of Interest, which I hear is very unique film. A lot of people really talk about it. Some people think that might be the movie that gets into Best Picture as well. But I do hear some people saying that no, that film's too experimental. Not a lot of people are really going to gravitate towards it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it, but I also do feel that a part of me is going to walk out going, man, that was pretentious as fuck, and maybe kind of push against it because of that. I don't know. I can't stand the whole pretentiousness sometimes, so there's that. So maybe Anatomy of a Fall, because it is a more digestible film, that's where Sandra's performance comes along. But regardless, even if Zone of Interest is that movie that gets in, I do think you got to give consideration to Sandra in this one, because I hear she's really fucking good in this one. Alright, I gotta talk about my girl, Saoirse Ronan as Henrietta Furfo. Now, originally I was gonna include her for Blitz, which I mentioned last month, but I don't know, reading the synopsis, I feel that's more of a shared character experience, so maybe doesn't get enough screen time to outshine anybody else. So I gotta take that into consideration, so I'm putting her in for Foe. But this is a thriller of sorts, so I just don't think that's a very strong possibility either. But I gotta talk about Saoirse, because first, she needs to have an Oscar. Like, she's a goddamn fucking talented actor. She's had so many nominations, and I know this gets thrown out a lot, but I really do think she is the Meryl Streep of her generation. And you talk about other actresses that have done the same thing, so on and so forth, but look how many nominations she has, and she's consistent with her work. She's constantly doing different accents, doing completely different roles. I think very similar to Meryl Streep. So I really do think she needs an Oscar. She's gonna get one. It's only a matter of time. So whenever she comes out in a movie, I am looking forward to seeing it and maybe thinking, this is the time. This is the time. Finishing off The Color Purple, I have Taraji P. Henson, who plays Shrug Avery. I mean, again, all of the female performances got nominated, so, I mean, I gotta throw her, and it's Taraji. I mean, not include Taraji, so, yeah, that's kind of all I got there. And lastly of all, wrapping things up, I have Willem Dafoe, who plays Godwin Baxter for Poor Things. I know I didn't include any of the other Poor Things performances. Once again, I don't think that means they're not gonna get nominated. I'm just far more interested in seeing Willem get nominated. I mean, again, he's been nominated so many times, has yet to win. Good Lord, that guy needs an Oscar. And I'm getting scared that he's gonna be one of those actors that just gets so many nominations but never goes on to win. Just never, he's always like in a bad spot. There's always like one performance that's far better. And it's such a shame because he's so talented. So I don't know if that's going to change. I don't know if this performance is going to be a nomination-worthy one. I mean, I feel like we always throw Willem in on our predictions very early on in the year, and it just doesn't come true. So I don't know. That's all I got. Kind of ending things on a sad note, I guess. Nah. Anyways, those are my Oscar predictions for July of 2023. Oh, I guess I should have included this at the beginning of the video. Whatever. More videos on the way, everyone, so please stick around for those. I've got my full-on Oscar predictions next month, so please come back for that as well. And until we hear more about the strike or what's going to happen with the awards festivals, yeah, just, again, please go educate yourselves, or at least, look up the information. It's all very fascinating and scary, and those people definitely need support right now. It's highly important. Truly, it is, especially if you love films, if you love the Oscars or Oscar predictions, videos, and channels. Just do it, guys. Do it. And that's really all I got for you guys for today. So please, until next time, stay safe out there and have a good one.